Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and today I'm going to do one of the very long awaited episodes. Some of you have been waiting for over a year for this episode to come out, and finally I'm able to do it because now all the data is in place. And what is that? I am going to now do the 1980s top 30 showdown, okay? And obviously, people may have seen some best anime list or must-watch animes for the 1980s and that kind of stuff. But a lot of these are just personal favorites of people. Videos that people have watched and thought, oh yeah, this is pretty good. I'll kind of put them, or hey, I like Fist of the North Star lots and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I'll just put those into the top 10 or whatever. And so there's no real process or real concise consideration to all the various titles in that. So finally, doing my series of my anime list, I went through every year and every season of the 1980s and have done an episode for every one of those, going through all the titles and looking at all the different things about the episodes. And now finally, I got the information and the data to do a final tier list and final countdown to make the top 30 titles for all of 1980s. Okay, so 1980 to 1989. Okay, and so finally something concise, something with some backing and some actual process and some criteria that people can use to gauge and make the best titles for this decade. All right. So, before again, I want people to go down below, click like and click subscribe. Okay. And again, if you particularly like this particular video and you like to to support me financially, by all means, I do have the super thanks down below, and as well, I have a Patreon and a PayPal available for all those people who like to get to be a subscriber. Now, as a subscriber, I do have a whole series of episodes that are available to you exclusively. Because the fact that I cannot do a lot of things like that I can do on my subscriber channel on YouTube. So again, to get all that extra content and all that stuff that I'm not able to do, you definitely want to become a subscriber and get access to those. Again, if you want to look below, I do have the links down below for all my episodes of the History of Fan Anime, because I'm up to over 250 now, as well as the an idea of what those exclusive episodes are about. So again, you have something to look at. All right. So today's episode, again, I'm going to get into the beginning of this top 30 showdown. Okay. So before I begin, I want to basically go over some of the criteria that I'm going to use to judge and place and do all these different sort of things on this video. And I'll use this particular episode to go over that before I actually go into basically populating the list. Okay, so obviously here we have a series of different animes and that kind of stuff. And again, I've made a spreadsheet and even a graph chart in regards to that. Again, I'll put the link down below if you want to actually see physically this chart where I'm deriving all the data. Or either that, or again, if you want to go and look at the database, you can go back and check out all the various episodes of the History of Fan Anime, which I cover all the different my anime lists. Okay, but that is the how I've drawn on this data and how I've created and summarized everything into this table. Okay, now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through. I have a unique sort of angle on this, right? So I'm going to be going through all the episodes, but unlike a lot of these newer people, especially people that are younger than me, obviously they have grown up watching anime much later than I have, right? So they're watching much newer animes, and they're going backwards and watching the older animes. So you can kind of imagine this like they ended up watching Star Trek 6, 7, and 8, and and now they're going back and watching Star Trek 1, right? And they're kind of going, well, where are all the special effects, and where's this, and why does that look so old and campy and that kind of stuff? So their view might be slightly tainted, okay? Where I'm sort of coming from the point that I was presented in, and I lived through this era of anime. This was what we traded and what we were looking for at the early ages of this anime, where it wasn't even subtitled or dubbed, and I was able to see how these videos basically came into the North American market. So that's how I'm coming at this angle and then seeing the significance. So with that, I can move forward and get into the newer animes that way. Yeah, so basically, I've have a better solid foundation for building newer animes with. Okay, with that, so I'm going to go through some of the criteria that I'm going to be using to make the basis and figure out who belongs in this list and who doesn't. Okay, and so the first criteria that I have is I want to look at how the anime influences North American culture, fandom, language, anything like that. So basically, we have this anime that comes out, and we want to see obviously its popularity will basically somehow influence or have some sort of marking in our everyday culture. So whether or not that's something like a lot of the modern things of like let's say cyberpunk and whatnot have influences from things like Bubblegum Crisis, Ghost in a Shell, or whatever, that kind of stuff, right? Okay, a lot of things, for example, that is pivotal, like Akira has a lot of things in the North American culture. So and even some things like words and that kind of stuff, that have come from a lot of different animes. Even like the word thing, for example, like waifu. Okay, means that. So I'm going to be looking at that kind of idea, okay, and make some considerations based on that. Number two, I'm going to be looking at media presence. So basically, if anime is really, really popular, or at least if there's a directive to push an anime, then it's going to end up in a lot of different platforms. Okay, so I'm going to look at things like how, for example, a lot of different streaming platforms, let's say for example Netflix or Crunchyroll, is pushing or promoting a particular anime. We're looking at basically how anime magazines like New Type, Animedia, Anime V would be putting them on the covers, or putting have lots of ads in them about a particular anime, because obviously if they have lots of ads, they're really pushing things. For example, like New Type, for magazine, was heavily pushing 5-star stories, even though there was only one movie for 5-star stories. They there's over 10 different covers of New Type which have 5-star stories just for the one movie, for example, right? So obviously there's a lot of push from the companies for you to watch this particular anime. Okay, so there's something like that. Number three, I'm going to look at cross-platform releases. Okay, so obviously if an anime is popular and or they're really trying to promote a particular anime, I'm going to look at how the companies are going to promote it by trying to make other things for it. So I'm referring to things like, did they make a video game for it? Is it based off of a manga? Did they find it so popular, or so good in the ratings that they decided, hey, let's make a live action version? Did they make a lot of CDs for it? Did they do a lot of work, creating a music soundtrack? Did they make a lot of range mixes? Do they have, voice actors, seiyus, singing songs and that kind of stuff of it? Did they make joke CDs and drama CDs? Did they make a theatrical theater release, of it, live action theater release of it? Things like that. Basically, they're all trying to address a different kind of a market other than just the anime market buying the DVDs and the OVAs or the tapes, right? Did they try to get some more market share from other things? So I have to, basically we're using that to also gauge how popular an anime is. Okay. And then lastly, number 4 is the reception from the fandom, because obviously there are videos that probably maybe didn't do all that well, in terms of numbers and that kind of stuff. In terms of number of laserdiscs sold, or in terms of number of videotapes sold. But because of how the fandom has reacted, and maybe because of just people say became interested in it because of fan subs, for example, made a lot of certain types of animes more accessible, that maybe other people wouldn't have known about if it wasn't that way. And we can also see how the fans react to different types of things, whether it's cosplay or doujinshis and that kind of stuff. Let's see how the fans react to different types of anime, because that's also another gauge of how popular an anime is. Okay, so I'm going to be using these sort of things and kind of looking at that, all these different factors in whether or not I decide, whether or not where these things go on this chart. Okay, so now that I've gone over the criteria, now let's go through the actual titles. So here we have the blank working sheet here, okay, and as you see, I've listed the numbers 1 to 30. Again, I'm not going to probably go through it and label the first all the way to the 30th. I'm just gonna go through and basically pick the top 30 items from the list, and from there we can deal with which one's better than another. I won't really classify them in this particular series to do that, but at least come up with 30 titles anyway. And I'll have them broke up into different categories, because my list, when I went through the anime, my anime list episodes, the animes were all classified according to TV series, OVAs, and movies. Okay, now when I'm going to go to the list, I know that a lot of TV shows and that kind of stuff, they make movies for the TV shows and that kind of stuff and whatnot. I will sort of kind of group those together whenever possible, because obviously it it sort of refers to like a lot of things, like the franchises sort of have to kind of go together. So for example, if you watch, let's say, Dan Cougar, watching the series, you end up with a cliffhanger, right? And obviously it never resolves until you watch the movie. Same thing with Sonic Soldier Borgman. Things like that, all you kind of need to watch the movie to finish things. Maze no Kaku is another one that sort of comes to mind. Things like that, they should be kind of classified together, because it's sort of, the grouping works in that way. All right. Anyway, so this is the main list that we're going to go for. And so I'm going to flip over to the database, and we'll start populating this chart with titles from the database. Okay, so we go right to the titles list on the database, and I'll just start filling them in. So for the TV series, we'll just quickly add in Time Boken, Ideon, Balvios, Ashton no Joe, or Tomorrow's Joe, Astro Boy, Yamato, the third series, Gigantor, Ashton no Joe 2, so the second series for Tomorrow's Joe, Galaxy Express 999, Astro Boy, Sasaya-san, the third Yamato series, Dr. Slump, Millennia Queen, or Queen of 1,000 Years, Goshigun, Urusei Yatsura, Ulysses 31, God Mars, Minky Momo, Acro Bunch, Techno Voyager, Backsinger, Macross, Space Cobra, and Captain Harlock, SSX. And that will bring us up to 1982. Okay, for the OVAs, we do have a lot fewer of them, because they said they didn't really make OVAs really that much until the 85. But here we have the Rose of Versailles, Galaxy Express 999 OVA, and Daikon 3 and 4. Okay, for the movies, a few more of them. Astronaut Joe, Hinatori 2772, which are really referred to as the Space Phoenix, Galaxy Express 39, Towards the Terra, the Yamato Be Forever movie, Cyborg 009, the Gundam sets of movies. So instead of saying Gundam 1, 2, and 3, we will combine them together and make them one entry. Galaxy Express 39 Andromeda, Balios, Millennia Queen or Queen of a Thousand Years, My Youth in Arcadia, which is Captain Harlock, Space Cobra movie, Edeon the movie, Techno Police, Future Wars 1980X, and God Mars the movie. Again, this will bring us all the titles up to 1982. Okay, so we go to next year, 1983. So this is the first year that really probably to me that has some significant animes that are added to the list here. Okay, so in the TV series section we have Aura Battler Dunbine, Rashomon, Armor Trooper Vodums, Cat's Eye or Sing to Cat's Eye. It was released in French. Creamy Mami, which is I guess the first of the Akimi Takada series of TV series. Orgus, or Super-Dimensional Century Orgus, the first rendition of something from Haruki Mikimoto. Let's see, we have Captain Tsubasa, which is soccer. Mospira, Genesis Climber Mospira, so again the third part of the Robotech series, as it was popular over here. And we have one extra series called Vifam, which is going to be number 31. So we'll go back to that one. We'll figure out who gets knocked out for that one. On the OVA side, we add only two, Time Slip of Primal Rose and Delos, are the only two OVAs that came out in 83. And movies, we add Udasuratsura, the first movie, Crusher Joe, Harmageddon, the first Yamato movie, Go-Go 13, Barefoot Gen, Palatiro, Doogram the movie, and 9, which is the baseball movie. All right, so that's all the titles for 1993. So not enough titles. You're still filling in the titles for the OVA, still filling in titles for movies. We just have to fix the one conflict in the TV series. Okay, so we go back to the TV series pile here, and we have 31, so we're going to knock one out. So, Vifam, of course, is, one of these newer series about, essentially the kids and the giant robots type of thing, right? Again, we're on this huge trend of shows that are based off, big giant robots, stemming from Gundam that was released in 79, right? So, you can just look at the list. A lot of these shows have giant robots in them. Edeon, I guess Baldios, Gigantor, right? You need to see this sort of trend going on, right? So Vifam definitely does belong in this. It was hard to get episodes of Vifam, but they did exist. You got to realize that this is still very early in the era of the VCR, right? So if people didn't have these really expensive $1,000 VCRs to record this content, then it's very difficult for anime to basically share the anime, to actually get people to actually watch the anime, because again, the only way that here in North America we were able to see this kind of anime is someone had to recorded it onto a video cassette and then send that video cassette from Japan over to the U.S., North America, Canada, to actually see it. Okay, there isn't really the availability of getting it via satellite, and there's obviously no internet at this at this particular time, so you couldn't do it that way. So it was very difficult, to get recordings of that type of show, just because no one really recorded it over there and brought it over. Now, if they did, for example, there was at this time a lot of those, mom and pop type stores, run by Japanese people, in the Asian communities and that kind of stuff, who would record stuff and then send it over. But they'd be more recording, popular music programs or like news programs, documentaries, and that kind of stuff. Occasionally they record some anime, but of course it'd be different titles, right? Sometimes that would circulate around, but so definitely I would put ViFam in. And just quickly going down the top of the list, I guess the first title that I'd hit that I would probably take out right away would be Ashton no Joe. Okay, and so this one is a series about boxing. Yeah, I know Rocky was out at this time, and that was sort of a big thing, but Ashton no Joe 2 is the second series for a series that was obviously released a lot earlier. And again, I think at this time, a lot of people that are getting interested in anime were probably coming in from the science fiction sort of angle, right? And mecha and that kind of stuff was really a big thing at the really early on. So again, things about sports and love relation kind of stuff, it just didn't go right. It didn't flow. So again, very few people would have had copies of it. Very few people would have traded it. Very few people would have actually made recordings of it or anything to distribute. So again, the popularity that would go. So basically, yeah, we're knocking out Ashton no Joe and we're inserting ViFam. Okay, so that basically takes me up to 1984. And we will continue this in the next episode. And we'll see what TV series are going to come in and what series are going to go out. All right. So I hope you found that sort of an interesting start in the beginning of something like a long process of doing this. Because again, it's going to probably take me a few episodes to go through. There's a lot of titles to go through. And, there's a lot of basically, analysis and kind of explaining my choices, because I said obviously I want to be somewhat try to keep my homerism sort of in check, as at the same time be realistic about what the titles and that are in here. So it might take me a little bit to do that, but again, I know you will follow, because as I said, the end process is to basically come up with some concise list of these top animes that people will want to watch for the 1980s. Because again, we are very busy. There's lots of new animes that are available. I can understand if you don't have the time, you don't want to be wasting too much time with titles from the 80s that really aren't worth watching or don't have any sort of sort of concise value, shall we say. I don't know if that's the correct word, but definitely you want to make a good cream of the crop sort of list, and this list will hopefully give those people that sort of thing, that if you are limited on time and you want to go through them, this is how you want to watch these and which ones you want to watch. Okay, so please join me as we go through this series, and this will be a very big project for me, as it were. But we will go through it together, and we'll come up with a really epic sort of list that will be very useful for many people in the anime community for this. All right? So, join me on my journey, and I will see you in the next episode. All right? So until then, I will see you again.